Hey everybody, that's Eden Main from plutoniumastrology.com. So we have a full moon coming up on the 16th, which is going to be like early Saturday morning. And I thought we would take a look at that and just do a little talk on what kind of energies are floating around this full moon. So let's bring this up on the real-time clock here. Do a little share screen. There we go. All right, so now we're seeing the full moon. So what we've got is, if I actually go back to about March 31st, you can see here that, let's see, right here, we've got the moon and the sun and Mercury conjoining in the sign of Aries. So this was the beginning of the lunation cycle that is happening in Aries. So of course, we only get one lunation cycle per sign each year. And each one of those is sort of like taking the energies of that sun sign, and it sort of extrapolates it out. It sort of becomes a seed in the beginning, and then there's all this potential that the seed can blossom into. And it's sort of like we're witnessing the Aries plant that grows, and it essentially gets to about a week later from here when the moon moves into Cancer, and that would be the first quarter moon. And that's when whatever was beginning, so you sort of, this is really helpful too if you guys do any journaling or anything like this, or can just have a good enough memory to remember what this was. I don't, so I have to journal it, but that's a good habit, because if you think about what was going on about 2 weeks ago from today, you sort of might get a sense of what this lunar cycle is about. Now, we are talking about a lunar cycle, so this isn't like the end all be all of big cycles that we're going through. This is just, a particular cycle, and it happens once a year with this particular Aries signature here. But at this time, April the 8th, we would have seen whatever was happening at the very beginning of the lunation cycle sort of unfolds to the degree that we now are standing up a little bit, and we have enough perspective to work with the energy that was happening at the beginning of the lunation cycle. And then if I progress it to Saturday here, right there, let me get some circles going again. Right there, you can see we've got the moon pretty much at the end degrees of Libra, and we also have the sun opposing it at the end degrees of Aries. So I have gathered some notes about this moon cycle and this full moon energy here. So the first thing that I've got down, I've got 8 things that are interesting about this full moon in Libra. The first thing I have is that both the sun and the moon are positioned in the cardinal signs. There are 4 cardinal signs in the zodiac, and we have the sun in the Aries cardinal sign and the moon in the Libran cardinal sign. The thing about cardinal signs is they are the point in the season that begins a new season. So for Aries, we have the winter ends and the springtime begins. And so in cardinal signs, because of the nature where there is a big change from one season to the next, these signs can often represent a sense of having driven around a corner from one place and then realizing that you're on a new stretch of road that you're seeing ahead of you. So there may be a sense with this full moon cycle where either you've recently kind of driven around a pretty distinct corner, and you realize as the full moon energy is culminating that you're now seeing a new stretch of road ahead of you, and there's something different about that. Or it might be that during the actual culmination of the moon, there's a sense of going around the corner, and then after the moon has become full, there's a sense of noticing, oh, wow, I'm around the corner. Now, because moons are about culmination, this corner could be a type of harvesting of something you've been working with, an energy or a situation that has been kind of coming to fruition in one way or another. And being around that corner could look something like, okay, there's something to work with now. There's some fruit or some harvested essence that we're now processing in some way. So this full moon is distinct just because it is happening in signs that are cardinal and sort of have that sense of being driven around a corner or making its way around a corner. So that's the first thing that I have about this full moon in Libra. The second thing I have is that this may point to things being more externalized. Both of these signs are also, not only are they cardinal signs, but they are also masculine or yang types of energies. And this isn't to say that it's literally having to do with male or female. It's not really like that. It's more just that, well, for instance, a man can have both yang and yin sort of characteristics, and a woman can have yang and yin expressions as well. So we're not talking about literal sexes here, but what we are saying is that both Aries and Libra express typically in an external or more concrete, like anvil hitting the steel, tires hitting the road kind of expression that is more likely to happen out somewhere in the world, versus yin types of signs like the ones before both of these, where there may be more of an inner landscape, a sense of something riding the oceans of the inner environment or the inner landscape. So if you put these two things together, now we have a bit of a sense where this full moon is externalizing events, and once stuff has kind of gone around a corner and it's become something a little bit, some new view has come into perspective. So the third thing that I have is the lights are representing Mars and Venus, who are currently co-present in Venus's exaltation sign. So what I mean by this is that Mars is ruling the sign that the sun is in, and Venus is ruling the sign that the moon is in. So not only do we have sort of this dualistic nature between spirit and karma, or spirit and fortune, but we also have spirit and fortune being represented by Mars and Venus, which is very interesting. So because both Mars and Venus are in the sign of Pisces, this is interesting. This points to a full moon where, on the one hand, both Mars and Venus cannot see the domiciles that they rule. They're both on different pages to some extent. But that being said, at least they're co-present. So there is a little bit of communication among themselves. Now, if that translates to the actual domicile places that the luminaries are in is another question. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. All right, the fourth thing that I have written down here, the moon is trying to responsibly balance the past and the future into some kind of harmony. So that's what the moon is doing. The moon is in a Libra, in a Venus-ruled sign in Libra. And so the moon is trying to effect Venusian types of things. It's trying to affect some type of harmony or balance or fairness or beauty, or it's trying to maintain the ability to see all of the different types of perspectives. It's trying to be like sort of conscientious, where it not only sees its own its own perspective, but it's also able, and it's trying to include and harmonize the perspectives of the other people or the other situations that are occurring. So the moon is trying to go through this, it's trying to balance out all of these different perspectives. But what's unique is that the moon is making a trine to the exaltation ruler of the sign that it is in. So the moon is making a trine to Saturn, and Saturn is in Aquarius. And so this speaks to there being some supportive connection with a kind of responsible or practical or sturdy or something like this. The moon is not only trying to be conscientious and aware of different perspectives, but it's sort of really mentally quite connected to Aquarian types of perspectives, because it's making a connection by trine to Saturn, and Saturn is the exaltation ruler of Libra. So there's a strong connection here with the moon having the ability to really understand the contradictions that are forming in Aquarius right now. Aquarius is a sign that sees the past and it sees the future. It tends to go towards the future, but it kind of bounces back and forth between the status quo and maybe some future ideal. But it is a sign that holds things in dichotomy viewpoints. It can sort of be the master of seeing a opposition or a dichotomy, and it can sort of be on one side or the other or bounce back and forth. So this is what the moon is working with, essentially. Now, the fifth thing that I have is that the sun, what is the sun trying to do? Well, the sun is trying to do something very different here. The sun is trying to release pent-up energy through its victories. What I mean by this is the sun is in its exaltation sign of Aries. So we're saying that the sun is very victorious. It's able to wield enough power to really overcome and be a victorious power source unto itself. In Aries, the sun wants to do things very independently. It wants to strike out on its own and be the master of its own destiny, right? This is essentially what it's trying to do, is find some really potent purpose, an individualistic potent purpose, but it is making an aspect to the planet Pluto from Capricorn through a square. And this is where there are some real explosive tensions coming in on the part of the sun, because Pluto is essentially in the dominant position here, and it is talking to the sun, and it is whispering in the sun's ears power and potentially speaking to a type of energy that is below the surface or hidden, and it's a bit of a trapped energy. It's a bit of a nuclear or a reactive energy that has the real tendency to want to be released and explode like an atomic bomb. So that does not sound like the most congenial of things for the Libra moon to have to contend with. And this is essentially the tension that is taking place between the sun and the moon. So the moon is trying to keep perspectives, all different perspectives. It's trying to balance out all these different viewpoints and find some harmony and peace and just kind of sort of chill out. Where the sun is going, but I've got the will to be my own thing right now. And I feel like the Pluto element comes in if there is any type of power dynamic struggle or issue. And if there is, I believe the sun may express that through a bit of an explosive reaction that is just so quick you can't even see it coming. And this might be the general kind of quality that this full moon has right now. So kind of watch out for that. Although it's hard to watch out for things like this because this explosive energy might be something that you just can't see coming. It's just everything is fine, and then boom, it just everything is not fine. So hopefully things like this won't come down to energies like that, but I feel like there is at least I should raise that as a kind of a little bit of a cautionary beware of the potential for that during this full moon. So that is what I'm seeing for the sun's position. Okay, now number 6, I have Venusian expressions may somehow be on a different page to what the moon wants. Okay, this is where I was saying earlier. So the moon is in Libra, and Libra's ruler is Venus, and Venus is positioned in Pisces. Okay, now traditionally in ancient astrology, the sign of Pisces cannot see the sign of Libra. It's what's known as it's in a let me get out of my notes just for a second here, and I'll show you what I'm saying. So let me draw a little line here. Change the color. All right. So from Pisces, Pisces is able to see directly across from it, and it's able to see in a trine to it on both sides. It's able to see the square to it. And oops, hold on one sec. Okay, it's able to see the square to it. This was what's known as the doctrine of optics, where just based on the angles from Pisces, it could see these different signs, and it's what's called as reception. So it has a couple of blind spots, and the blind spot signs are Libra and Leo. So Pisces cannot see these two signs to the right and left of Virgo. So the way that this translates is that Venus as the host lord of the sign of Libra cannot provide communication to its own temple. So what this means is that the moon might be trying to effect some kind of Venusian balance or Venusian quality, but whatever Venusian things are being expressed, and they will be very exalted, beautiful Venusian things, but somehow these things are not on the same page because the communication cannot be translated from where Venus is to the temple that Venus rules, which is where the moon is being taken care of by Venus. So Venus cannot essentially translate its qualities back to its own temple and lend support to the moon. So to give you like more of a concrete example, it might be that you do something really beautiful with a friend, but the friend does not understand that you're doing something beautiful for their own perspective. Things kind of fall a little bit short somehow. The communication does not happen. So you may try to work some negotiation out with a situation, and you might try to do it through some exalted, beautiful peace agreement or something like this, but it may not get translated over the way that you want. Now, the same thing is happening for the sun. Okay, let me just grab my notes real quick here. Number 7, Mars expressions may also somehow be on a different page to what the sun wants. Okay, this is the same thing here where, let's see if I got my circles still. All right, so Mars is in the sign of Pisces, and it is responsible for the sign of Aries. So it is the host to the sun. It's the same thing where Mars being in Pisces cannot see directly to its left, can't see directly to its right. Okay, it can't see those. Mars can see 60 degrees out to the sign of Taurus, and it can see 60 degrees out to the sign of Capricorn. So again, the sun may want support from Mars, but Mars is not able to communicate that. So in this sense, the sun might try to claim some victory, try to initiate some new decision or action, and it may not come off the right way. There may be an accident of some sort. It may, maybe, let's see, maybe you really want to assert yourself in a conversation, and you want to say, look, this is what I need, or what have you, and I'm going to do this because I feel really good about this. But it might be that you try to pull it off and it doesn't quite translate out to, you may not pull it off correctly. You may fumble a little bit trying to do that. All right, and let's see here. Okay. Okay, last but not least, we have number 8 on my list here is Venusian things are seeking a peaceful yet potentially breakthrough or shocking exchange of communications. All right, this has to do with Mercury and, Mercury. This has to do with Mercury starting to come into a 3-degree range conjunction with the planet Uranus in the sign of Taurus. So this is just a little bit of a side piece to this whole full moon, where there's an energy of Mercury being maybe some kind of communication that is trying to do something Venusian. It's trying to make a sort of a Taurinian or Venus-like communication, or it's trying to think about or exchange some type of energy towards an ideal or communication or something that it wants. And it'll do it very, slowly and surely, like Taurus things do. But it's also making a conjunction to Uranus, and Uranus will tend to make Mercury things kind of do something that is like a breakthrough or an innovation or maybe a shocking type of thing. So there's maybe a shocking expression. Now, an exalted Venus is ruling the sign that Mercury is in, right? So we have reception now from Venus to Mercury here. And actually, they're perfecting a sextile. So you're going to get support from Venusian things trying to make this communication. In other words, this communication will probably have some gesture of desire or peace or love. But what actually happens might be shocking as well as loving or peaceful. If it wasn't near Uranus at this moment, I would say this would be the saving grace, where if things do kind of explode in the moment, there's going to be some communications that helps resolve the situation. But in this sense, there may be some communication that helps resolve the situation, but there's no guarantee that the communication won't be a little bit erratic, a little bit disruptive, a little bit shocking. There's always the potential with that when you have Uranus involved, because Uranus not only brings very genius, insightful innovations, but it also can be just plainly disruptive and rebellious. So we don't know how that will go, but it is being hosted by a very well dignified Venus. So I tend to think that it will be probably more helpful than not. But anyway, so that is what I see happening with the full moon that is coming up on Saturday morning here, the 16th. So if there are any stories that you guys want to put down into the comments, this is always great to see these. You see the signs being fleshed out in actual life stories. It helps us all see how the gods are speaking through the astrology and through the planet. And thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll be back soon for the next planetary transit, which will be, what will that be? It may be the sun ingressing into the sign of Taurus, which is a big change. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.